So to start this program, may I call on Ms. Paez to have our opening prayer.
Let's put ourselves in the holy presence of God. Dear God, we want to thank you for all the blessings you received. I ask for forgiveness for all the sins committed. I pray, Lord God, that you will send your Holy Spirit to enlighten me, to give me the wisdom, knowledge, and understanding that I need for this topical defense. We seek for your glory and presence here today. Guide us, Lord God, so we can be able to deliver our research proposal successfully. And with our worries and fears, we lift it all up to you. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Thank you, Ms. Paez. And to give us the opening remarks, may we call on our very hardworking assistant principal, Mr. Carlo Patricio.
So to our panel's chairman, Sir De Guzman, to our panelists, we have here Miss Abby and Sir Manzanero. So to our teachers, observer here, some grade 11 students, and to all students na nasa call na ito, I wish you all a pleasant afternoon. So we really appreciate your attendance on this second day of grade 11 topical defense. So Sir De Guzman advised me yesterday to prepare an opening statement. May paganto siya, di ba? And I'm not sure what to say to everyone, but I'd like to share with you our experiences over the last 2 years with annual research forum, defense, presentation. So other students in research said that research is rough, 'di ba? Nakakahagard, nakaka-stress, and it frequently causes students to end friendship, 'di ba? And yung common term natin ngayon dyan is yung friendship over or FO. 'Di ba? Tapos sasabihin pa nila dahil lang sa research na 'to. And also, people occasionally mock it or do not take it seriously, like they're saying that what is the nature of research? Is research something you're interested in, or in Tagalog, 'di ba? Sabi na ano ba yung research na yan? Research kayo ng research. Anong napapala natin sa research? 'Di ba? Additionally, some students saying na, well, bakit kailangan natin i-check yung format natin for spacing, font size, and formatting are important in research. But lahat ba yon ay nagmamatter? So, we have new and improving technology in research, and we can do more to improve it in our daily lives. So, research or proper citations and formatting guidelines enable us to ensure that our work is taken seriously, and that is other authors receive proper credit for their work, 'di ba, pagdating sa related literature and studies pagdating sa chapter 2, and the readers can receive a valuable information. Ayaw naman natin ng fake news, 'di ba? So apart from that format, research also equip us with knowledge. We gain an understanding of how nature works and how our actions affect it. So we develop a more nuanced understanding of people and why they behave that the way we do. So best of all, like what we have right now, we have the presentation of science, technology, engineering, and mathematics, or the STEM strand. So we get to enrich our lives with cutting edge knowledge in that different variety of fields. Diba? We also including health, nutrition, and business sa iba't ibang strand. And we consider a world devoid of research in which governments make policy decisions on hunches and manufacturers release products without testing them, like in the vaccine, 'di ba? Ngayong COVID-19, yung vaccine natin because of research yan. And research enable us to addressing global problems and make evidence-based decision. And kung na-discuss na sa inyo that we have different types of research, and most of the STEM students are going to conduct experimental research, and we are looking for an evidence-based decision. 'Di ba? I am aware that some of the titles and concepts for our research may be rejected at some point. But I believe that with the help of our competitive faculty members and research advisors, right, Sir Mark, we can we can do, or we can impart to a research a study to help our community, not just STI Global City. So we are doing it not just for STI, but we're doing it with the significance of the study. Sino mga magbe-benefit ng ating study, di ba? Not just us, but the community itself. So when we enjoy scouring the internet for an evidence or factual information about candidate during an election, dapat ganun din yung eagerness natin and same enthusiasm when it comes to conducting the best research for academic paper. Once again, ayun lang. Good afternoon.
Thank you for that motivational speech, Sir Carlo. Ayan. Sana na-touch po lahat ng estudyanteng nakinig ngayon. No? So, research is a beautiful subject area. So, indeed, it is an advantage to have, for you, my dear students, to have an occasion like this. This will mold your intellect, critical thinking, public speaking, and many more aspects. Our school, especially the senior high school department, is trying to give the best quality and execute the beauty of research. That's why we are happy to have the following individual to be our board of panelists. Without further ado, let me introduce to you our set of panelists for this afternoon. Our first in line, we have our statistician, Miss Abigail Mabolo. Yan, Miss Abigail, kaway ka naman dyan. Para hindi na kilala kay Ma'am Abigail, she's been teaching for about 6 years. She graduated Polytechnic University of the Philippines, Bansud Campus at Mindoro, with a degree of Bachelor of Science, major in Mathematics. And now she's taking her masteral at Iris University with the course Master of Arts in Education, major in Mathematics. Let's clap for Miss Abby. He's been here at STI for about 5 years. So 5 years na siya, our very famous Mr. Sunny Abadjano. Sir Sunny. Okay, palakpakan naman natin si Sir Sunny. Yes. He graduated at TCU or Taguig City University with a degree of Bachelor of Science in Education, major in English. And to complete our panelist, we have Mr. Darwin Manzanero. Sir Darwin, pwede ka pang mag-turn on ng camera. Ayan. Alright. Sir Darwin graduated at Central Bicol State University with a degree of Bachelor of Science in Secondary Education, major in Biology. Then Sir Darwin, nakapagpatayo na din siya ng mga mini schools sa kaniyang pinagvo-volunteeran sponsored by M. Louvillier Foundation. Yes, nagpapatayo yan ng school. And now, he's taking his Master of Arts in Education, major in General Science at La Consolacion University of the Philippines. So yan po ang ating mga bigating panelists this afternoon. And now let me introduce to you our criteria for judging. Group 1, 2, 3, and 4. Presentation or mastery, 30%. Ideas and information, 30%. Teamwork and punctuality, 15%. And organization, 25%. A total of 100%. Yan. So sana familiar po tayo dun sa ating criteria para alam natin kung paano natin ibibigay yung pinaka the best performance po natin. So, hinga-hinga, group number 1 because you will be our first presenters for this afternoon. So may I request all group number 1 to turn on your cameras now. So group number 1, kapag ready na kayo, you may start.
So, the discourse about carbon footprint, greenhouse gas emissions, and global warming have been gaining attention and significance globally. Carbon footprint is an environmental menace that needs to be addressed at once. Various mitigating measures were proposed, and yet manifestation of its proliferation are very much observable. The question is, do the students' carbon footprint results show significant effect on their level of climate change awareness? Good day, my dear panelists, my audiences. My name is Mary Chagarin, the chairman of Group 1, and I am here together with Ms. Adriano Aliana B., Mr. Billones Marion David A., Mr. Escobar John Mark, Ms. Jaquez Lizal A., Mr. Monteroyo J. Linwell Q., Mr. Pansuelo David, Mr. Perez Maverick M., Mr. Rashid Rohan Zenedin B., and Mr. Sangalang Zaimon Angelo A. Together, we will be defending our topic entitled A Comparative Analysis of Carbon Footprint Practices among Grade 11 selected students in STEM, ABM, and Coolistrand in STI Global City and its relation to their climate change awareness level. So to start off with our introduction to the topic, Mr. Rohan Rashid will explain it for us.
The topic of this research will be regarding an analysis of carbon footprint practices among grade 11 STI Global City students within the selected strands, and how it relates to their level of awareness for climate change. So, with this study, the researchers plan to analyze the carbon footprints of students selected from the chosen strands, and to observe if their awareness towards climate change has an effect on their practices. The independent variable within this study will be the carbon footprint analysis, while the dependent variable will be their climate change awareness level. The idea here is that the students' carbon footprint results, whether good or bad, may have something to do with how aware they are about climate change. The study observes the relationship between these two variables and how much they truly affect each other. The plan the researchers have is to study the carbon footprints of the selected students via having them answer a survey that will determine their carbon footprint. Then the second half of the survey will be an attitude test, which will help identify the students' level of awareness towards climate change. The survey in particular will involve questions asking the students about their management of energy sources, such as electricity, gas, oil, and other variables. These details will be used to determine their carbon footprint via a carbon footprint formula that the researchers will use. The attitude test will be to assess the students' climate change awareness through yes or no type questions. Next slide, please. The respondents of this research will be grade 11 students within STI Global City, specifically students who are part of the selected strands, STEM, COOLI, and ABM. 20 students will be selected from each strand to participate in the survey. These surveys will be answered online, and the students' answers will be used and taken note of during the research. The objective of the study will be to observe and analyze the carbon footprint practices of the different students and find out if the results are affected by their knowledge of climate change and determine the relationship between their awareness and their footprints on this. The researchers also hope that this study will bring awareness to climate change issues and show how our own actions can contribute to carbon footprints, which can directly influence climate change. Overall, these issues are a very real problem and must be addressed. So the hope with this study is that it can teach students how to calculate their own carbon footprint, and most of all, how to take action in order to lessen it. Thank you.
Next, may I have Mr. Sangalang Zaimon to elaborate the background of this study.
Thank you, Ms. Argarin. Global warming has been affecting our daily lives ever since 1980s. Smithsonian Environmental Research Center stated that global warming is when carbon dioxide and other greenhouse gases trap energy from the sun. As greenhouse gases in the atmosphere continue to spike, more heat energy from the sun remains trapped in the lower atmosphere, where it warms the planet below. Since the Industrial Revolution, the global average temperature has risen by 1 degree Celsius. If nothing changes by 2100, that figure is likely to pass 2 degrees Celsius, enough to melt ice sheets, drown island communities, and strain the water supply of billions of people. And since we humans live in the surface, we are experiencing the adverse effects of this phenomenon. Global warming can also cause climate change or the long-term change of climate either globally or in a certain area. Next slide please. According to Intergovernmental Panel on climate change is one of the most crucial environmental problems of the planet Earth. It causes extreme weather events and natural disasters and alters society's social and economic structures. This is very unfavorable for our daily activities, especially in terms of crop production. Back then, these cases were natural to our planet, and it has a very low negative impact to it. However, as we progress through innovation and technology, we also became responsible for releasing harmful substances to our environment. We can consider that humans are the most intelligent being on Earth. Yet, this intelligence are not always used in the correct way. The advancements we make also affects the environment. In this modern generation, we are surrounded by technology and machines. Both requires an adequate amount of energy in order to function. To produce energy, we are using methods which are found to be harmful in our planet, like how most sources of electricity are utilizing fossil fuels, oils, and other types of fuels. Traveling long distances would require the use of a vehicle, and if not all vehicles up to this day, they are still using gas as fuel for their engine. Both of these things are a cause for a high amount of carbon emission. On the report of Iberdrola in 2022, the trace of greenhouse gases produced by human activities are known as the carbon footprint. This environmental indicator measures both direct and indirect emissions of compounds like methane, nitrogen oxide, hydrofluorocarbons, perfluorocarbons, sulfur hexafluoride, and above all, the most abundant and most important contributor to global warming since 1990, carbon dioxide. Whatever the effect of these to our environment, we are still using them as they are an important aspect in our modern way of living. According to the data from NEMA.com, it shows that in 2020, carbon dioxide emissions per capita for Philippines was 1.27 tons of carbon dioxide per capita. Though Philippines' carbon dioxide emissions per capita fluctuated substantially in recent years, it tended to increase through 1971 to 2020 period, ending at 1.27 tons of carbon dioxide per capita in 2020. We can notice that there is an increase of carbon emission per person every year here in the Philippines. This increase is not acceptable as it would cause a lot of damage and pollution to our environment. Next slide please. One of the probable causes of high carbon emission rate is that most of us do not pay much attention towards this issue. We disregard the effects of our daily routine without noticing that it has affected our environment. Garek, Brackerman, and Harms in 2018 said that given the importance of extracurricular activities, scholars delineate the positive impact of extracurricular activities while teaching climate change. Extracurricular activities advocate decision-making in educating students about sustainability. It is also important to assess the level of awareness of the youth as they are the generation who are exposed to modern-day technology, and they are also the future inhabitants of this planet. Iberdrola also said that the next few years will be decisive in our fight against climate change, and our success will certainly depend on our ability to reduce our carbon footprint. If everyone is well informed about this issue, then we might have the chance to save our planet while it's not too late.
Ms. Ariana Adriano will now be stating the problems of this research.
Thank you, Ms. Argaril. This study will be conducted to determine the varied carbon footprint practices among grade 11 selected students in STEM, ABM, and COOLIE strands in STI Global City, as well as their level of climate change awareness. Specifically, it strives to answer the following questions. Question number 1. What are the carbon footprints results of grade 11 STEM, ABM, and Cooley strands? In terms of energy consumption, transportation, and waste management. This question is asked to assess which strand in grade 11 contributed the highest and lowest percentage in energy consumption, transportation, and waste management. Moreover, which of the three strands has the highest and lowest percentage of carbon emission? It can also be a way for us, the researchers, to determine in which carbon footprint practices students lose. Without asking this, we can never know how ignorant or knowledgeable they are towards their daily practices. Question number 2. What is the student's level of awareness towards climate change? This question is for evaluation if the students are aware that their carbon footprint is affected by climate change, and why do they treat those as such. We will evaluate their level of awareness by making attitude tests to measure if the respondents lean towards the conservation of nature or not, given their knowledge about the harm of carbon footprint practices. We can know if the participants are responsible for their deeds. Question number 3. Is there a significant difference between the carbon footprint results among grade 11 STEM, ABM, and Cooley strands and their level of climate change awareness? This third question is necessary since it attempts to know the depth of knowledge of the participants about climate change. So as the researchers, we want to formulate a realization about the result of the study. In this case, we are determining if there is a difference between the carbon footprint practices and the attitude of the students towards the awareness of climate change. With this, we can assess the significance of conducting the study in the first place, for we know that we acquire something meaningful from finishing this endeavor. And lastly, number 4. If, is there a significant relationship between the carbon footprint results among grade 11 STEM, ABM, and Cooley strands and their level of climate change awareness? Of course, we are aiming to see if there's a relationship between carbon footprint behaviors and respondents' perceptions of climate change awareness. It's sought to assess the students' understanding of the concepts about this study. We need to determine the percentage of the students have high carbon footprint but low climate change awareness level, and the percentage of the students have low carbon footprint but high level of climate change awareness. Furthermore, we also want to assess the percentage of the students have high carbon footprint results and high level of awareness. The percentage of the students have low carbon footprint and low level of awareness. And what does this imply? By asking this, it can be a way for the respondents to know what their practices are considered to be carbon footprints practices that affects the climate change. Thank you.
For this study's conceptual framework, Mr. J. Mataroyo will tackle the variables involved.
In Figure 1, presents the conceptual framework of the study. The independent variable will be carbon footprint analysis. Meanwhile, the dependent variable will be level of awareness of SDI students of climate change. To elaborate, the carbon footprint analysis will act as a basis in identifying the students' climate change awareness through their carbon footprint results. For instance, it is possible that the higher carbon footprint is, the lower the climate change awareness level there is. On the other hand, the carbon footprint calculator will serve as the mediator variable to identify the relationship between these two variables. This will be the indicators in identifying the student's carbon footprint.
So, our group will be presenting two parts of the methodology as to how we will be accumulating the carbon footprint of the students. Mr. David Pansuelo will be explaining the first part. So it seems like Mr. Pansuelo is having a hard time with his internet connection. Mr. Paris Maverick will be explaining the methodology instead.
Thank you, Ms. Argarin, for that wonderful introduction. So, this study's methodology has two plans. First is calculating the carbon footprints of the students, and the second is an attitude test in order to identify the level of awareness of the students. For the first part, the researchers will be calculating the carbon footprint of the students through the formula provided by Alexandra Shimobari. So, Alexandra Shimobari is a Canadian writer, and one of her greatest works is the environment equation 100 factors that can add to or subtract from your total carbon footprint on 2008. This book states the formula for calculating your own carbon footprint, and the description is about the waste we produce globally and its harmful effect on the environment. We will be providing survey questionnaires that includes the students' electrical waste and transportation management, since these are the needed categories in order to calculate their carbon footprint. Next slide, please. For knowing your overall carbon footprint, let's follow this particular method presented in your screen. Is the step-by-step process of calculating your carbon footprint. Multiply your monthly electric bill by 105. Multiply your monthly gas bill by 105. Multiply your monthly oil bill by 113. Multiply your total yearly mileage on your car by 0.79. Multiply the number of flights you've taken in the past year, 4 hours or less, by 1,100. Multiply the number of flights you've taken in the past year, 4 hours or more, by 4,400. Add 184 if you do not recycle newspaper. Add 166 if you do not recycle aluminum and tin. Add 1 to 8 together for your total carbon footprint. So these calculations will identify how much carbon footprint per pound the students produced monthly. This will be the formula the researchers will use if ever we will be the one to calculate the students' carbon footprint. Next slide, please. So bear in mind that an ideal carbon footprint or a low footprint is between 6,000 and 15,999 pounds per year. 16,000 to 22,000 is considered average. Under 6,000 is considered very low. Over 22,000, perhaps you should consider some of the living green practices. So living green implies making way of life choices and engaging in implementations which decrease the negative effect of climate change and promote the overall well-being of the planet and its creatures. So next slide, please. For the part 2 of our methodology, a survey questionnaire is provided in order to test their awareness on climate change, wherein the questions involved are focused on whether they are knowledgeable about the results of their carbon footprint impact on climate change. So, the attitude test of grade 11 selected students in STEM, ABM, and Kulay Strand. So, for starters, according to Christensen and Nezek in 2015, students' attitude and well-being are one of the factors to be considered in finding the accurate awareness of today's youth regarding carbon footprint outflows that is present in our surroundings and environment. Their level of awareness on today's environmental issue is somehow essential to the understanding of the effects of carbon footprint that is caused through their actions and behavior towards the environment. So regardless of whether students will go on to work in a STEM-related profession or just live in a STEM-influenced world, we should strive for all to have positive attitudes to science and its role in society, motivation to understand the science of issues directly related to their lives and general well-being, and the belief in their ability to make sense of issues. Fortus 2014, page 822. So students should recognize how crucial science education regarding carbon footprint is essential to their environmental attitude. Acquiring idea about this study may cause willingness to take actions on the issue about carbon footprint. Next slide, please. So the survey questionnaires, please do note that these questions are still subject to change. The researchers prepared sample questions that will be conducted to test the respondents' level of awareness and attitudes on carbon footprint.
The answer of the respondent should be whether yes or no on this following series of questions. So the relevance of these questions regarding attitude test is to effectively identify students' awareness regarding the carbon emissions and their general carbon footprint. The researchers plan to measure students' behavior, preferences, and attitude towards the environment to accurately represent the data and information gathered by this series of questionnaires. Thank you.
So, Roberts in 2004 defined the limitations as the boundaries of the study that are controlled principally by the researcher. In this study, we have four delimitations. Mr. Escobar will discuss it one by one.
Thank you, Ms. Algarin. This research will only be limited to accomplish its necessary goal, which is the comparative analysis of carbon footprints between the student and its relation to their climate change awareness level and will not go beyond any other limits. The questionnaires will be created and distributed online. Upon completion of the study, one whole month will be devoted to collecting data. The data gathered and the assessment will be analyzed and evaluated through proper statistical means. 1. The focus of the study is to compare the average carbon footprints of the student and determine whether their carbon footprint results have something to do with their awareness towards climate change. 2. The scope of the study is limited to the carbon footprint analysis of the respondent in terms of electric, gas, and waste management. 3. Only students enrolled at STI Global City are included as respondents of the study. 4. Data collection are confined to 20 selected students for each strand, especially the strand of STEM, ABM, and the whole.
So, on to the last part of this discussion, Ms. Jacques Lizal will be taking the spotlight for the significance of the study.
For the significance of the study, the researchers aim to measure and spread information about carbon footprint and test whether climate change awareness affects the students' carbon footprint practices. One article said that being aware of their carbon footprint and its effect on our climate could be a solution to stop climate change from worsening. The researchers visualized that having to conduct this study benefit not only the students involved, which is the STEM, ABM, and Kuli strands, but also pre-service teachers and the researchers themselves. So first, for pre-service teachers or someone who is preparing to be a teacher, this study could help them acquire more knowledge on how they can find an easy way to take action about climate change. An article written in 2021 by Tolpanen, Claudeline, and Kang stated that pre-teachers only has a few knowledge when it comes to making an action about climate change. If the pre-teachers could gain knowledge in this study, they could apply it for their future job, which is teaching professionally to the students with proper and enough information to share, and at the same time, promote extracurricular activities that involve sustainable practices. Next is for the students. This study could help them be aware of how much carbon footprint they have been emitting for the past month, which allows the students to be more careful when it comes to doing human activities like transportation practices. A study was conducted in 2016 by Ed Strand wherein they made students calculate their own carbon footprints. And in the end, the students gained new knowledge about climate change and how this relates to human activities that increases carbon footprint. Lastly, for the researchers, this study could also benefit them by gaining knowledge in carbon emission, carbon footprint, and climate change, which is related to biodiversity under their specialized subject science in their strand. Studying climate change and carbon footprint exposes the researchers more to biodiversity. With that being said, this study aims to calculate the students' carbon footprint in order to analyze the contribution they have to global warming. and at the same time assess whether their lack of awareness has effects on the results shown in their carbon footprint. A study back in 2016 by a So this research will prove whether STI students do show the same results and therefore will pave way into promoting sustainability education in our campus and at the same time spread awareness regarding carbon reduction. The findings of this study will contribute to the body of knowledge when it comes to modern day carbon emission of the Generation Z students and address the environmental issue by the researchers who are students as well.
For the ending remarks, let's recall. The researchers will be making use of carbon footprint formula, in which it is proven by the study of Ed Strong in 2016 about using carbon footprint in an environmental education, that calculating carbon footprint made it possible for the students to be able to look at different ways on how carbon emission involved as an individual and globally. With that being said, this study expects to have a result that will compare the carbon footprints of the selected students between the three strands mentioned and analyze whether this has a relation to their climate change awareness level. The results will pave way to possible mitigations and reductions in carbon emissions such that it would benefit not only the researchers but also the respondents and the school in promoting carbon neutrality and an environmental friendly education. Most importantly, this study aims to calculate carbon footprints of the students in order to mitigate action plans in reducing carbon emissions, with the researchers striving to minimize the negative impact of one's actions on the natural and built world. Thank you for your time in listening. Panelists, we are now ready for your questions and feedbacks.
Thank you for your presentation, group number one. Everyone, let's clap for group number one. Okay. So, let's now proceed to our panelist. Ready na po ba yung mga panelists po natin dyan? Let's start first with our major, major subjects, Mr. Darwin.
Okay guys, good afternoon. First of all, I would like to commend Group 1 for a very interesting and well-presented research topic. Congratulations guys. No? You know what? Carbon footprint no, is a new for us, a new term for us, especially in the field of research. No? Hindi siya masyadong binibigyan ng pansin, okay, ng mga sa research. Okay? But then, okay, congratulations kasi you take the risk, okay? And ito na, you gave us a very good presentation, okay? But then, I have, siguro konti lang, wala akong problema kasi naiintindihan ko yung flow ng study nyo, naintindihan ko yung methodology, what are the dependent and independent variables, so kompleto sa Ricardo yung presentation nyo. Meron akong isang word na idadagdag sa title, no? Yung personal carbon footprint. Okay, dito. A comparative analysis of personal carbon footprint practices. Okay. Okay, bakit natin kailangan idagdag? Okay, please, sino yung ano na pa? Okay. So kailangan natin idagdag yung personal carbon footprint kasi kapag carbon footprint malawak. Okay, malaki. So ngayon, yung personal, ang i-compute lang naman natin, yung personal contribution, okay, nako-contribute ng student doon sa general carbon emission. Okay? So we need to add the word personal there because it truncates, no? The personal carbon footprint truncates the system to the reasonable agency of a student. Okay? So it includes then, pag nilagay natin yung personal carbon footprint kasi it includes the certain behavior na kailangan baguhin ng estudyante. Okay? Para pandagdag doon sa level of awareness na niya. Because of this personal carbon footprint na pinapractice ko, nakakapag-contribute pala ako in certain way sa total carbon emission. Okay? So, kasi kapag hindi natin siya nilagay, hindi diyan hindi natin sa limitation, okay? Sa i-delimit lang kasi natin siya. Hindi naman kasama dito sa study nyo yung upstream and downstream, okay, sources. Okay, di ba? We discuss the carbon cycle and the biosystem in the different subsystems of the earth, no, in the lesson 3. So we have the carbon cycle, na yung mismong pag ano natin, pag urinate, that is already that is already no a source of carbon emission. Okay, pumasok ka sa mall, kumain ka sa mall, 'di ba? That is already nakakapag-contribute tayo kasi yung mall, yung school natin, no, ang taas ng ikino-contribute nito in terms of carbon emission kasi we use aircon, mga aircon, 'di ba? We have the chlorofluorocarbon. Yan, na. So hindi natin isasama yung upstream and downstream sources. Kaya we need to be specific, personal carbon footprint lang, yung mismong ikaw. Okay? Yan yung one point na idadagdag ko lang. Then ano pa ba yung sinulat ko? Here is my kodigo. Okay, what is the difference between significant difference and significant relationship in the SOP? Okay, for the information lang, yung mga nalito natin mga estudyante, mga ibang
Sir
student,
Darwin,
okay?
gusto atang sagutin ni May. What are the
May,
differences between the two? Okay.
okay, yes, May.
So, significant difference po tackles different of means between two or more population po. From our study, we have three groups of population, which are the three strands po. So we aim to identify whether these three strands will show different results po of their carbon footprint analysis and their level of awareness po. And the statement of the problem also will tell us whether the results of one group are significantly different from the results of another group. While the significant relationship naman po defines whether the two variables have relationship with each other. For instance, it could be the higher the carbon footprint is, the lower the lack of awareness there is. Yun po.
Okay, thank you, May. Thank you. Kasi minsan, no, na ano kasi to, na-abuse yung significant difference at saka significant relationship in researches. Akala nila pareho lang. Okay, but then, very good, no? Very good. Okay, doon tayo sa methodology. Na, yung sa methodology, ano bang kailangan nyo? 1 month lang or 1 year na i-compute?
Monthly lang po, 1 month lang po. For the past
1 month lang. Okay, kasi yung normal, okay, yung ni-report kanina ni yung sa normal, 'di ba, 16,000 to 15,999 pound per year. So, para masabi natin, ma-conclude natin na yung yung personal carbon footprint calculator ng estudyante ay nasa minimum lang. So we need to divide the 6,000 to 15,099 ng 12. Na? Look at the formula. Kasi naka per year. So annual yung sa binigay ni Barry, ni Alexander Barry na equation. Okay, so yun yung yun baka maano lang natin, na baka hindi lang natin mapansin, okay, sa pag-compute kasi naka per year yung niya, yung normal. Okay, naka 6,000 to 15,999 pounds per year. So i-divide niyo siya sa 12, yun yung minimum. Yun yung limit para normal pa rin. Okay? So yun lang, guys. Wala na akong ibang comment. Very good. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Sir Darwin. Babalikan po natin mamaya ang iyong decision whether it is approved, revised, or declined. Let's proceed to our second panelist, Mr. Sunny Abadjano. Sir Sunny?
Clear ang namin, sir, line.
Yes po,
Yes
go,
po.
Sir Sunny.
Kasi nagka-cut kami dito sa Wi-Fi, okay? So, I have a question. For your calculation regarding this carbon footprint in the methodology. And then you've said that you're just calculating the month. Uh, may I ask, when will you counted those when will you execute this computation? What what I mean is correct me if I'm wrong, sir, from our major. In our country we have different seasons, right? So
Yes, sir. Yes.
meron ba tayong breakdowns na magkakaiba yung um, um, I mean yung nagiging result ni carbon footprint when we are in this rainy seasons or in a dry seasons.
Sir Sunny, merong ceiling average na binigay ang yung na-report ng group who reported the methodologies. Sige.
Just the ceiling, but no division with the specific season. I'm correct me if I'm wrong, because I'm quite curious about that. If we are in the in a rainy season, we need to consume uh, uh, a lot of things in order to sustain our life, right? Like put fire to sustain the heat in our body. Then it also produce, and it also involved carbon footprint. Am I right or wrong, sir?
Yes, sir. Yes, you're correct,
So
sir.
that is only my concern in regarding this carbon footprint. If actually I don't have problem with the study. I'm quite curious about this, and I'm sure this study is very unique. And those are the things. Those are my concerns. If we can identify when we will execute this study, make it sure that we are in the right calculation regarding the season when we are increasing the carbon footprint, or we are not really consuming a lot. By the way, you can educate me, guys, if you if you know the answers. How about the students? Uh, um, may we go back to the title? Another question for the students, but then those question is you can never answer me right now, because I know those are future problem of the studies. Let's go to the title, please. Just a question for the students: are we comparing the consumption, the involvement in carbon footprint of the? I mean, are we comparing individual involvement of the students or group involvement of those strands you include in this title? Again, my question is, ulitin ko pa mga anak.
Sige Sir Sunny, pakiulit po.
Okay. My question is, since this is a comparative analysis, I'm just curious. I'm not saying it's wrong. I'm just asking the students, are you trying to compare the individual involvement of the students, or you are trying to compare the involvement by group or by strand that you include in this title?
By strand po, sir.
Then then what? What will be the where we go after that?
So, basically po, sir, since nag-provide po kami sa methodology po namin ng mga categories po to determine po yung high and low carbon footprint po, i-group po namin per strand po kung anong percentage po ba ng students ng strand na yun yung nakakuha po ng high carbon footprint and low carbon footprint po. Yun po yung parang pinupuntahan po namin sa methodology po namin and this research po.
Okay, so let's see. If the cool arts have much involvement in carbon footprint than the STEM students, what will happen? What will you do? You just tell them?
No po, then we can pag nahanap na po kasi namin yung results, yung pinaka main goal na po namin is to mitigate action plans po regarding the involvement of the students. Let's say sa Kulistan po, since mataas po yung, for instance, naging mataas po yung carbon footprint results nila than the other stand po. What does this imply po? Mahanap po kami ng mga action plans po, which is i-relate din po namin siya sa mga existing study na possible pong solve po as to why nga po mataas po yung carbon footprint ng Kulistan po.
Okay, for the succeeding question, is there a what we call the extraneous variable regarding the carbon footprint involved? Hay nako, CF involvement. Ang hirap banggitin. Carbon footprint. Carbon footprint. Is there an extraneous variable regarding the involvement of the students? For example, cool arts about the carbon footprint. Pag sinabi kasi pag sinabi kong extraneous variable, ito yung mga bagay na hindi mo ginalaw pero naapektuhan. For example, si cool arts, nature ng nature ng kanilang strand. Ang pagiging part ng carbon footprint, anong gagawin natin doon?
Sir Sunny, can I butt in for your question?
Okay lang.
No? Ano po, tatlong scope lang yung coverage ng study, yung sa transportation, ano pa yun? Transportation, household waste management, and electricity. Yun lamang yung
that's my
yun
point.
lamang yung covered.
That's
Sige,
my
sir.
point, sir. Yung waste nila. I do understand that the cool arts has a more involvement rather than the other strands, right? Because of the nature of their course. Siguro I'm quite doubtful regarding cool arts. Kung ang parameter natin ay hindi baka maging bias tayo. Eto sa dalawang to, STEM and ABM. Because of the nature of cool arts. Siguro pwede na rin pwedeng UMS na lang din. Nakukuha niyo yung
Yes, sir.
Baka kasi nagiging tayo sa result ni
bias.
Kuli
Okay.
because of the nature ng kanilang course. And for example, waste management. And you are pertaining to a student. Of course, they papasok na tong ang tawag dito, face to face. Kahit most of the time pag pumasok sila sa atin, they could ang talaga nila, ang purpose nila dito sa school ay ma-involve dito sa carbon footprint. I'm not saying that STEM ABM is not will not be involved, but Kuli is more involved. So I don't think so, sir. Baka correct me if I'm wrong then. Kung ang Kuli ay pwede natin palitan ng UMS for the fairness of the three strand.
Pwede naman, sir, pero in terms naman do sa magiging result, no? Sa magiging result ng carbon footprint calculator, hindi naman natin, 'di ba? Hindi naman natin bibigyan ng masyadong emphasis kung sino yung may pinakamataas. Kasi considering naman, no, alam naman natin talaga na directly involved yung Cooley strand sa carbon emission kasi nga part ng curriculum. Okay? So, mas gawin natin tong in a positive way, no? Mas mabibigyan sila ng awareness, na mas magiging aware sila na ano pala, yung since part ng curriculum, 'di ba? Mas nakakapag-contribute tayo. Siguro pwede nating pasukan to ng environmental education na to what extent in some ways na pwede nating i-minimize, okay? I-minimize yung mga activities natin. Okay, ganun sir. Mas ano to, mas maganda kasi mas mai-educate pa natin mismo. Okay? Yung mga prone, na yung heavily target ng gantong study. Pero hindi natin masyadong kung kumbaga
Opo,
magkakaroon ng biases, walang biases pong mangyayari sa gantong
sir, sir,
study.
sir, is it fair to get a sample for the IT MAWE since they are also involved in this?
Ayan. Sige sir, pwedeng palitan natin yung strand, kunin natin yung
Eh,
mga heavily affected. 'Di ba? Ng
hindi sir, it's okay yung ito. Okay tong si STEM, ABM.
STEM. ABM.
Represent that they will represent the low involvement in
Okay.
carbon. But then if we can add another strand that also high involvement in carbon footprint like cool arts and
Sige sir.
what we call this, the IT MAWE who always here for their laboratory using computer.
Yes. Yes
Diba
sir,
naging
pwede po,
balance?
pwede. Balance na. 'Di ba meron tayong maximum sa minimum involvement na sa pwede tayong mag-add. Anyway naman, tig to 20 lang naman per based on the presentation, tig to
Sample type
20
to
lang
eh.
naman yung Sige sir, maganda, mas gumanda po, mas maganda. Okay guys, no. Mas paki-take note yung mga suggestion. Mas maganda yun sir.
But then I'm quite amazed with this study kasi it's sabi nga nila different animal tong study na to. It's a good study. Well, I'm just waiting for the result of this.
Okay guys, kayo ano yung nyo kay sir?
Oh guys, I'm just I'm not saying that the study is wrong. I'm giving you a benefit of the doubt to see those little holes that we can that we can
Yes, tama
patch
naman
with
guys.
this moment.
Okay.
And in this moment, sabi ko nga, pag in-approve na namin to, papabayaan na namin kayo magpatuloy hanggang chapter 3. But then, sabi ko nga, this is a different animal. Bagong study to and I'm quite curious pa rin regarding this.
Okay guys, you can explain further na yung methodology.
Yes po sir, naiintindihan po namin yung sinasabi ni Sir Sonny and ngayon lang din po namin na-realize yon. And we will consider po yung mga suggestions nyo since mas lalo po siyang makakapag-improve din po sa po namin, sa research namin kasi to be honest din po medyo, ayun nga po, nag-aalangan din po kami sa strands involved po dahil nga po sa involvement nila with carbon footprint. So yun po, we will consider po yung suggestions and recommendations nyo po. So thank you po.
Wait lang, busy pa si Sir Pablo. Sir Pablo, it's your turn.
Alright, thank you group number one. Meron pa ba tayo? Meron pa tayong isang panelist, our statistician, kung
Oy,
paano
sir.
papasok po dito. Dito pa Sir
Sir
Sunny.
JM, sir ano, i-correct nyo
Ay,
ako ha.
sorry,
Medyo
kausap po Sir Carlo. Sorry,
out of
sorry.
this league ha. Hindi ko alam yung gantong ano ha, kind of ano.
Okay, sir, sa ano naman, okay naman po sir, sana yung suggestion niyo, mas nakadagdag pa siya ng ano, mas nakadagdag pa siya ng magandang maidudulot sa study ng mga bata. Okay.
So, may I call on Miss Abby for our kung paano po papasok yung statistics po natin dito sa ating study. Ma'am Abby?
Ayan, so good afternoon, STEM 202. And sa dami ng sinabi ng ating mga panelists, parang wala na ako maidagdag. Pero guys, siguro i-take note yun na lang. But before siguro meron lang ako konting idadagdag. But please please do take note po yung mga sinabi ng ating mga panelists. So, first of all, I just want to comment, of course, like what Sir Manzanero said. Ngayon, alam nyo guys, nakakatuwa kapag makikita mo talaga sa research if talagang pinaghandaan at prepared po talaga ng isang grupo. Kasi you can see the organization in your research. Makikita mo yun doon at ramdam yon ng mga ng mga panelists na kapag ah kung gaano ka-organize yung information na ano, ibig sabihin na paghahandaan niyo siya. And I want to commend din yung mga members na they able to answer yung mga questions ng ating mga panelists. So actually that's the right attitude when it comes to when you are questioned or asked by your panelist po. So siguro yun na lang yung ano natin. Hello. Ah, hello guys. Naririnig po ba
Okay,
ako?
ma'am.
Sorry.
Naririnig ka, ma'am.
Oo,
Go lang.
kasi naka-stop ako sa inyo. Ano ba 'yan? Kaya sabi ko
You are
baka hindi
audible,
ako
Ma'am Abby. Sige,
naririnig.
tuloy.
Okay, I see. Okay, so ayun nga, so yun lang regarding sa commendation, I also want to specify lang or emphasize yung sinabi din ni sir. Actually do'n sa carbon footprint, medyo alanganin ako. Sabi ko, parang paano ba ito mame-measure nila, yung regarding sa carbon footprint. But, as your major subject, ayan, ah, at kaya nyo namang i-explain on how you're going to measure it. So, siguro maybe guys, dahil malawak nga, according nga sa inyong teacher, ayan, malawak yung coverage when we say carbon footprint. So, yes, I do understand that parang may sinasabi kayo like kapag low carbon footprint, magre-result yun to their awareness in climate change. But siguro instead of picking waste management and other nagko-cause or nag-emit ng ah, carbon dioxide, it's better siguro na mag-pick kayo ng one doon. Kasi guys, not only kapag like for example, waste management yung napili nyo. So, marami na kayong may tatanong regarding doon. Kung paano nila, ah, kung, yun, marami na kayong matatanong doon para ma-assess nyo kung talagang gaano kataas yung level ng kanilang carbon footprint. So, ayun, ang suggestion ko sa inyo, pumili lang kayo ng isa instead of picking three categories. Di ba may tatlo yon, waste management. Meron pang isa, dalawa pa na binanggit ni Sir Manzanero. So, I suggest na isa lang para medyo mas madali sa part po natin. And even the climate change awareness kasi, isa pa ring another question na naman yan para sa kanila for us to yun nga lang ang yun din talaga yung medyo guys, medyo challenging din. Even sobrang ganda ng ating research, ang talagang kailangan lang natin is paano natin maka-calculate or mame-measure. Pero ayun na nga, siguro yun na lang,
Yes, thank
kuha
you,
tayo
Ma'am
na
Abby.
specific.
Yan.
Ayun
Thank
po.
you, Ma'am Abby. Pero tanungin as researchers, you have the rights to defend bakit tatlo bang factors ang kinonsider ninyo. So, one representative from the group, you may answer that question. Bakit tatlong factors? Anyone in the group?
Sir, kaya po tatlong factors po yun nandun kasi yun po yung mga kailangan na variables po para makompute po yung carbon footprint po. And yun po yung sobrang nagko-contribute po talaga sa carbon footprint. So, yun po, pinag-uusapan din po namin na kung pipili lang din po kasi kami ng isa, hindi po namin makakompute totally po yung buong carbon footprint po nila. Whilst yung sa carbon footprint naman po, basically yung electricity, transportation, and waste management po, doon na po kami talaga sobrang magpo-focus po. Kasi yun din po yung kailangan sa formula po.
Additional question from Mr. Abadiano. Then after that, Mr. Patricio.
A question lang, is this are we trying to compute the carbon emission? Kaya niyo sinama yung tatlo na yun, and those three can represent the calculation in regards of carbon emission.
May I ask Mr. Simon to answer that?
Sir, we are trying to compute carbon footprint po kasi iba po yung carbon footprint sa carbon emission. Wherein carbon footprint is total po siya ng greenhouse gases na nakakadulot po ng global warming, and carbon emission po is pag-emit ng carbon dioxide.
Yes.
Okay.
Maidagdag ko lang dun sa tanong, dun sa tatlong factor. Meron ba tayong studies related to that na nagsasabi na those three factors are enough to identify the carbon footprint? Kasi 'di ba, like what you've said, maraming carbon footprint, but you just included three na most common. How about yung least common na that can affect the the study itself? Unless meron tayong basis na related literature and studies justifying that those three factors for carbon footprints are enough to gather yung data natin for our variable. Meron ba or wala? You can just say yes or no or wala.
Raise your hand if you have the answer, group number 1. Kung may nakita ba kayo or na-cite na articles. Kung bakit yung tatlong factors na yon yung kinuha ninyo. Yes, Mr. Perez, Maverick.
Yung naging basis po namin is yung book ni Alexandra Shimobari na The Environment Equation, 100 Factors That Can Add to or Subtract from Your Total Carbon Footprint on 2008. Yun po yung naging basis namin dun po sa may tatlong factors na nabanggit po kanina.
Pero a specific literature studies that identifies na yung three factors na yun ay ang pinakamahalaga. Meron or wala?
Anyone? Maverick,
Kung
dun
wala,
sa...
okay lang.
Yes, Maverick, yung tatlong factors ba yun nabasa mo dun sa book ni scientist na yon? Pang-ilan
Yes
yung tatlong
po.
yon? Pang-ilan sila? Sila ba yung top 3 dun sa top 100 na yon?
Opo. Sila po yung top 3 dun sa may... Yes.
Hindi. Tinignan ko.
Okay, hindi daw kasi binasa ni Sir Carlo. Okay, mas maganda, may proof kayo dyan na sa mga susunod na groups o sa mga section na ito, kapag meron na tayong mga article na ganyan, yung mga possibilities, hanapin na natin, i-ready na natin. Ano?
That is the power of literature and studies. That's why it is called related literature.
Okay. Hindi pa kabilang dito yung RRL. 'Di ba? Wala
Okay, so
pa.
topic pa
Since
lang
we
po
are
tayo. Ayan. So,
halos
Topic pa lang
kumpleto na
tayo.
kasi, ah.
I think let's sum up this one kasi meron pa tayong three groups na magpe-present. Ayan, masyadong advanced si Sir Carlo kasi siya yung papasok na sa chapter 2. Mga grammar teachers po natin, sila sa related
Idadagdag ko
literature.
lang, Mark, yung kanina na
Yes, may last question pala si Sir Carlo. So, go Sir
wag
Carlo.
wag wag natin i-limit kasi kaya we have a conversation a while ago with Sir Pablo. I'm asking, after we know the awareness level ng mga strands, anong gagawin natin dito? Na, ay, ito na, nag-gather na namin. Ito na yung carbon footprint ng bawat strand. So, anong next step natin dito as researchers?
Yes, to answer that, may I ask Rohan. So after conducting this research, anong use nito, Rohan? Can you answer that?
Well, sir, the use would be um, after finding out their awareness, we could um, help to inform or perhaps educate how they could lessen that footprint, or perhaps rather educate them on uh, if they have low awareness, for example, perhaps the study could help inform how their actions are affecting climate change awareness, uh, and that could help those that have low awareness.
Thank you, Mr. Rohan. Sino pang ibang sasagot? Any other idea? Kung meron pa, pero pag nasagot na ni Rohan, that's good. Nasagot na ni Rohan? Yes. So, Sir Carlo, what can you
Sir
say about the
MJ,
answer
if
of
Sir MJ, if it is a seminar, I'll say no for the title.
I'm sorry, Kuya Sani, you're saying?
I'm saying no for the title pag seminar na naman.
Mm-mm. Actually, ayun yung isa sa mga challenges natin when we are doing title research defense. That we are just limited with our research title. But we should go beyond pag tayo ay nagre-present ng ating research title. Na after we know kung ano yung gusto nating alamin, like yung effectiveness, efficiency, awareness of something, we should go after that. Ano bang gagawin nyo as researchers to help the community after we know the awareness level, the efficiency, the effectiveness of something. And hindi natin nililimit, sabi nga ni Kuya Sani, kung ito ay magpapa-seminar program tayo for carbon footprint, it's a no. Because as STEM students, we should have something that we can share to our community na because of knowing the awareness level of the analysis of carbon footprint for Cooley, ABM, and STEM, ito yung nagawa naming output. So, marami pa kayong maiisip dyan na output for your study and I'm okay with your research title.
All
Ayun
right.
lang, sir.
So after discussing this, thank you so much, Assistant Principal and Sir Darwin, Sir Sunny, and Ma'am Abigail. So super haba ng discussion natin and I'm hoping na lahat ng audience natin na nandito ay nag-gain ng enough knowledge kasi lalo sa ibang mga sections na kayo-kayo magkasama until grade 12, then para saan ba itong research ninyo? Sabi nga ni Sir Carlo. Now, for the final judgment, Ma'am Abby, accept, declined, or approve? Or revise?
For me po accept ko siya but you need to revise regarding yung sinabi ni Sir Carlo. Lalo na, yeah, like, yes, I
I think hindi siya
understand.
revise, ma'am. We need to add.
Add, sorry.
Oo.
Kasi we need to add the literature or basis since, di ba, pinupush nyo na naka-relate talaga yung tatlong categories na yon. So, dapat malaman nyo yun. Ayun po. So, i-a-add lang natin, accept ko siya and i-a-add lang natin and also i-ano niyo rin yung concerns ni Sir Carlo like, ano pa ba yung possible na puwedeng magawa aside from the seminar? Yun lang, accept po.
And Sir Darwin, approve, revise, or
Approve.
decline?
Okay, approve to guys, no? Anyway, lahat ng recommendations, suggestions ng mga panelists, okay, paki-take note. Doon tayo magfo-focus para mas ma-improve pa yung study. Okay?
Okay, thank you, Sir Darwin. And decline.
Nawala kami ng internet.
Alright. Nandito pa ba si
Narinig
Sir
niyo ako,
Sunny? Baka
nawala
nawalan
kami
ng
ng
internet.
internet.
Ay, nawala ng internet. Sir Sunny,
Okay, sir,
final
naririnig ka.
judgment. Approve, revise, or decline, Sir Sunny? Or add-ons, enlarge?
Okay ako sa title. Okay kami ni Kuya Sunny with the title. We just need to add dun sa research title.
Alright, so si Sir Carlo na po yung nag-decide. So congratulations group number 1. So yung present ninyo ngayon, nakuha namin yung overview until grade 12. Hindi na kayo mahihirapan pag pinagtuloy-tuloy nyo yung ganyang status ng inyong presentation. So, we're hoping na may output tayo maganda after this. We are going to continue this title. Congratulations, group number 1. So you may now turn off your cameras, group number 1. A big clap for group number 1. And let's welcome our next group, group number 2. Group number 2, you may now turn on your cameras.